Hey everyone, it's Colin. How's it going? Pretty much everyone buys stuff from Amazon now, so that's really gotten me wondering. Are we just gonna eventually see retail stores disappear? I think it's no surprise that online sales in general have just gone crazy. These sales numbers only continue to grow every year, and it's not just specialty items that people are buying online anymore. It's regular day-to-day household goods. And coupled with this, we've also seen major investments in delivery networks so that these products can get delivered to you even faster. It seems like gone are the days where you have to wait a week or more for something to show up. Many people have access to much faster shipping options where you can get stuff in just a couple of days, if not same day, within a matter of hours. So it's really picked up a ton of speed and steam over the past few years, and it just shows no signs of stopping. More and more people are just going to keep buying stuff online instead of going to physical retail stores in their community. And as you'd expect, this has left a string of dead or dying retail stores in its wake. It all started a number of years ago, largely with specialty stores, especially ones that carried technology. We've seen the demise of Circuit City and CompUSA, and those were years ago. Best Buy, actually, several years ago, began to see a massive slide in its own sales. And we'll come back to Best Buy in a little bit, but in some ways, it's surprising that that company is still around as well. Plenty of mom and pop kind of computer and technology stores have also been closed or had to radically shift the way that they do their business simply because it's so much faster and more convenient and cheaper often to buy these sorts of items online. But it's not just those technology types of items that online has killed. In recent years, we've started to see this affect other markets as well, and that's what's gotten a lot of people concerned. It's affected things like daily necessities and clothes and toys and other products. Sears is very quickly circling the drain, and I don't think it's going to survive a whole lot longer. Toys R Us is definitely headed in that direction too. It recently announced that it was going to be closing hundreds of stores, and in late 2017, if memory serves, it even filed for bankruptcy to try and reorganize. Other department store chains are radically shrinking the number of stores that they have, closing underperforming stores and shrinking the footprint of even some of their larger ones. And perhaps the biggest surprise in terms of all of this are not just these big stores that are being affected, but also little ones too, smaller chains, especially clothing chains. In 2017, we saw a lot of these specialty retailers that go after the mass market either downsize or just go out of business entirely. And what's kind of crazy is those were the kind of stores that were originally thought to be the ones that were going to kill the department stores. Department stores have been declining for a while, of course, but generally it's been, figured that these kind of more boutique stores that cater to specific demographics, specific market segments, were going to be the ones that would kill them. It's very strange to see where the retail landscape has taken us just really from the actions of a few very big online retailers. And of course, everyone wants to blame Amazon. And that makes a lot of sense. And there's definitely some truth to it, right? Amazon is probably the biggest player in online sales. Even if you were to add up all the other major, popular shopping sites, I'm sure Amazon just dwarfs all of them. It's really interesting though, because Amazon started out as just a bookseller, right? They just wanted to do online sales for books. But at some point they decided, you know what, let's just expand and sell everything. And it's taken that model to the extreme. Amazon operates on this kind of minimum cost type of model where it wants to keep overhead as low as possible and just automate the hell out of everything that it possibly can. That company lives and dies on analytics and being able to write programmatic things for its operations. If it can replace humans with robots or automated processes, it will, and it has been. Although it hasn't overlooked that sometimes humans are still cheaper as a source of labor, but it's been very selective with how it handles that. But it's all kind of worked together to give Amazon this reputation for having the lowest prices. And often that's true. Often Amazon does have the lowest prices, which I think is maybe one of the biggest drivers as to why it's been so successful. But what's funny is that's not always the case. Amazon has a dynamic pricing scheme where it algorithmically figures out what's the best price to put on every item that it sells. Sometimes this is simply supply and demand based. Sometimes this is it scraping other retailers, and if it notices another retailer has dropped a price on something, it will automatically drop its own prices to match and then go a little bit lower just to kind of twist that knife a bit. But because it's got so little overhead, relatively speaking, Amazon can afford to do that. And also Amazon looks at shopping and everything as a part of a big picture. There are no doubt some things that Amazon sells at a loss or at practically no profit at all, but it realizes that that's all part of a bigger picture. It needs to sell those items to get people to want to spend more money with it, to shop with it more, to become more dependent on it, so that when they do go buy the higher priced, higher margin items, those people will be more likely to do so from Amazon. It's about building a brand and momentum and getting people in the mindset of just automatically thinking, hey, when I want to buy something, I'll just check Amazon first. And that's traditionally something that's been kind of hard for retail to do, simply because there is no Amazon equivalent to retail. They all focus on one thing or another. Either they're a specialty store and they focus on, say, women's clothing or men's shoes or televisions or appliances or pet goods or, whatever. Or maybe they're one of the big box kind of stores like Walmart or Target, where they carry a little bit of everything, but they don't carry much depth. They can't carry much depth in all of those categories. The stores can really only be so big, and they can only afford to do so much. That's really the key to Amazon's success, is because it doesn't carry all that stuff in a retail store. It doesn't have that overhead. And this is all pretty basic economics kind of stuff, right? If all you've got is a warehouse, and warehouses are relatively cheap to operate compared to a brick and mortar retail store, you can carry more items in that warehouse. Now, there are definitely some other things that Amazon does, like the affiliate selling kind of program, where you can sell your stuff through Amazon and even have Amazon warehouse and ship it for you. That all works to Amazon's advantage. Yes, there are some smaller players that will profit off of that arrangement by partnering with Amazon in that way. But ultimately, what do people think when they buy those items from the third-party sellers on Amazon? They're not thinking, well, I'm buying it from a third-party seller on Amazon. They're thinking, well, I'm buying it from Amazon. Again, it's all that brand and name recognition kind of stuff. And that's what allows Amazon to just have this critical mass behind it, because everything gets done under one name, as opposed to I'm going to go to this store and buy these things, and then I'm going to drive down the street and go to this other store and buy these other things. It snowballs into this whole more, lowest prices, most convenience type of thing that they want everyone to believe is the case. Well, most convenient is going to be a relative term, because what if you need it now? Well, with Amazon, at best, generally, you might be able to get it in an hour with Prime Now. Otherwise, if that's not available in your area, or the item that you need isn't available through that service, the next best thing is maybe next day or in 2 days with Amazon Prime. If you don't have Amazon Prime, then you're probably looking at about a week for it to get delivered. Whereas if it's available in a store, it only takes you as long to go from your house to the store to get it, right? That's it. If you're 10 minutes away from the store, it only takes you 10 minutes to get the thing. You really got to balance out, like, how badly do you need stuff? How quickly do you need access to this kind of thing? And what we've generally found is that people apparently are willing to wait. Either it's not as big of an issue that they have to wait and they're just willing to accept it, or they're actively okay with waiting, a day or two for what they want to get to show up. And we'll talk about some of the changes that retail has been making to try to, counter some of this, to fight back against Amazon. But ultimately, Amazon, I don't necessarily believe that the company is like trying to take over the world, that it's hell-bent on world domination and all that. Obviously, it's very ambitious and it wants to sell as much stuff as it possibly can. And that's generally going to be kind of modus operandi for any business, right? And that's something, as a little bit of a side, a lot of people tend to forget, is that businesses are in it to make money. And businesses can't just subsidize everything, right? So when people want to vilify Amazon, well, Amazon, they're a company and they're trying to be profitable and make money. So that's just part of the game. That's capitalism as a whole. You can't have companies survive if they're just giving everything away, if they're always selling stuff at a loss, or if they're taking on huge expenses in order to cater to the demands of a vocal minority, right? So it's going to be this kind of constant back and forth, I think, from here on out, trying to balance out between retail and online, even though online is going at it guns blazing. I mean, Amazon is pretty much fully vertically integrated at this point, because not only does it do all the warehousing and all the selling, but it's also built out its own distribution network. Amazon is trying to get out of the business of relying on traditional shipping companies like in the US, UPS and FedEx and the Postal Service to deliver all these packages. It's built out its own network of delivery drivers who incidentally are all independent consultants, which is the way apparently a lot of its employees also work, in order to get these packages delivered. So how is retail going to respond? Well, the first thing that I should note is that Amazon is really only successful because we want it to be. Either we directly want it to be successful, or we implicitly want it to be successful due to our words and actions or lack of actions, right? A lot of people complain about the lack of selection at stores these days. And I'll admit I do this occasionally too, where I'll go to a store hoping that a certain thing will be there and they don't have anything like it, even if what I'm looking for is a relatively common kind of item. But that mentality is kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way, right? We want the lowest prices and the easiest convenience, right? It's hard to argue that it's more convenient to drive to the store and walk through the aisles and pick something up and wait in line at the checkout and then come home with your item than it is to just sit in front of the computer or on your phone and tap a button and it just shows up. There's definitely way more convenience to online. And then the same thing with lowest prices. Everyone always wants the lowest prices. You know, they'll go to a retail store and maybe they'll find the item that they want. But what do a lot of people do? They immediately pull out their phone and they check the price of that same item online. It's a concept called showrooming, and it's actually what caused Best Buy to start hurting a few years ago in terms of sales. Best Buy noted this, and they had to come up with ways to counteract it, where people would go to the store and they'd check out the product, but then they'd realize that it cost more in the store than it did online, so they'd just go home and order it online. Yeah, I mean, what are you going to expect? Retail stores are going to have more overhead. They have more physical facilities that they need to run, the actual stores themselves, plus the warehouses behind them to store and distribute all the goods to all those stores, plus all the people working in those stores, either to stock them or to help people answer questions or run checkout or do management, any of that kind of stuff. Retail is definitely going to be a more cost heavy type of business than something that's largely just warehouse and shipping like Amazon. So the fact that we complain about lack of selection at stores and that retail stores are more expensive than online, well, that's a little bit hypocritical, right? You can't have it every way that you want. You can't have the lowest prices and every item that you want in store if you're going to compare them against Amazon. So as much as we complain about the state of retail and where it's going, we've done it to ourselves. And I think maybe that's something that we need to admit and own up to. Every time that we go to a store and we don't find a thing that we're looking for because we need it now, instead of complaining about the store not having the thing we wanted, maybe we all just need to stop and take a breath and go, this is the way it is now. It is. It's just the way it is now. So what's retail going to do about it? Well, I don't think retail's dead. Not by any means. In fact, what I think is going to happen is we're going to find a balance between online sales and in-store. And I think it's going to change in terms of the focus of what stores sell, but also where and how the stores sell them. So, Best Buy, it started to have some major problems financially. They closed some stores, they downsized some other ones. Starting a couple of years ago, they managed to actually get themselves on a track to be more profitable again. And like I mentioned, it involved changing some of the focus of what it sold. There were some price cuts that Best Buy did. It also pushed for a better price competitive kind of policy, like price matching type of stuff, with some retailers, including online ones. And ultimately, all of those things put together generally have helped it get back in the black again. There's no worry of Best Buy turning into the next Circuit City, at least not at the time I'm filming this. But Best Buy is still having to make adjustments to how it sells electronics. And just recently, as I'm filming this, they announced that they were going to be closing all of their Best Buy mobile stores here in the US. That's something like 250 stores. Now, these are all little small format stores. Sometimes they're little kiosk kind of things in malls, or they're smaller storefronts like in strip malls, that sort of idea, where they mostly focus on smartphones and other mobile technology and accessories. So, you need a new cell phone, you don't know what model you want, maybe you want to switch carrier, you can go to a store like that, and there will be people there knowledgeable in all the different makes and models and all the different carriers to help you find what you're looking for, and then they can sell you all the accessories that you want. Best Buy has announced that it's closing all of those in the US. And apparently it's because they just weren't very profitable. Now, if you think about that, that's absolutely bizarre. Because, yeah, it's retail. Yeah, there's overhead. All those stores per square foot probably cost more than Best Buy's big box format, right? Because Best Buy's big box, they own all of the buildings that they're in. And the smaller stores, they likely lease them as tenants in larger spaces. So, you know, the financial part of it's kind of different. But it's still bizarre that those stores were not very profitable simply because of the market that they served. Mobile. Mobile is the hugest thing in technology right now. Everybody is going nuts about smartphones and accessories for smartphones, and it keeps getting a bigger and bigger market worldwide. You would think that of everything Best Buy sells, mobile would be like the biggest thing, that they'd be putting more money into that segment, building more of these little stores that are more convenient to get to. But they're pulling out of that completely. And now they're just going to say, well, you know, hey, if you're looking for a smartphone from Best Buy, go to one of the big box stores or just go to their website and deal with it there. I think a lot of that is simply because of the shift in the focus on products at retail. People are finding that, you know, maybe they would just rather buy those smartphones online, or they'd buy them directly from the carrier, whatever. Where Best Buy has started to do a lot better. One thing that's really helped shore up its finances, believe it or not, are sales of televisions and, most importantly, appliances. If you've been in a Best Buy store recently, take a note of how much floor space is now dedicated to appliances. A lot of the stores near me that I've gone to, it's probably a third of the floor space is now stuff like washers and dryers and refrigerators and other household appliances. And less of it is things like movies and music. And of course, we talked previously about how Best Buy is getting out of selling CDs entirely, but even video games, the video game section seems to be shrinking. The computer section seems to be maybe hanging on, staying the same, but the TV section seems to keep creeping a little bit bigger and bigger. Best Buy is focusing on the stuff that, yeah, online may be able to sell for a little bit cheaper, but is a bigger hassle to get home. So Best Buy is kind of going for the overall value proposition, right? You can buy it here, we'll deliver it to your house for free, either same day or next day or very soon, something like that, with no additional cost. We'll haul away your old appliances for free, maybe, something like that. And you can actually come to the store and kind of kick the tires on it, because appliances are large, expensive items that are not easy to return. So they're going for really what are the holes in the selling philosophies and practices behind online sales. And I think we're going to continue to see this out of other retailers in other markets too, right? Like Target. Target's even starting to do a little bit better in terms of its overall sales as well, after also seeing a major dip for the past few years. But its focus is moving to smaller stores in more urban areas. It's placing less focus on let's build these gigantic stores and having a ton of stuff in them, to more, I don't want to say a convenience store kind of model, but their city Target, what they call them, that format is much, much smaller than their traditional big box stores. They carry the same variety of goods. Like they've got a small little grocery section, a small clothing section, a small household goods section, a small electronics section, but they carry only the most common stuff out of each of those sections. And they're just going to build more and more of these small format stores in various places within communities. They're going to try and put them in more urban areas, so that instead of having to drive to the car, you know, get in the car and drive like 15, 20 minutes to the nearest big box store, maybe there's one just down the street from you. A few blocks you could walk there, or take your bike or take the bus, whatever. Now there's a whole nother discussion, probably not even suitable for this channel, about the overall shift in where people live, or where seemingly urban planners want us to live, and how they want us to go about our lives. But Target's kind of trying to play into a lot of those changes that seem to be coming. within each of those little sections in those smaller city Target stores, they're just not carrying as much. For example, in the electronics section at one of these stores, they'll carry some smartphones, they'll carry some like cables and accessories and batteries, the most common kind of stuff, but they don't carry music. They don't carry DVDs, maybe. They definitely don't really carry video games. They don't carry the stuff that people would most likely just go online and buy anyway. They're going to carry the stuff in store that you need sooner rather than later, or the stuff that you need to check out and, you know, touch tangibly. Now, that said, it's not like clothing stores are in the clear, because we've seen a lot of those go under as well or start to struggle. More and more people are buying clothes online, but I don't think it's going to 100% go that way. And there's lots of other markets like that too. Basically, if it's one of those things where you really need to check it out first, where you need to try it on, or you need to just see in person what its quality is like, or whether it will work for you, and it would otherwise be too much of a hassle to wait for it to show up, realize it doesn't work, and then send it back and get something different. That's where retail is really going to shine. And the internet will always, I think, have a small part of that, but it'll never completely take over. Retail is also, in other ways, trying to kind of fight back against, you know, internet retailers. Like I mentioned with Best Buy and price match policies, other retailers are starting to do the same thing too, where if you go to the customer service desk with an item that they sell and show, hey, look, Amazon has it for $5 less or whatever, they'll honor that price match. And they're only able to get away with that because a certain percentage of people are actually going to go to the hassle of trying to price match that. The stores aren't going to actively do the same thing Amazon does with its algorithmic pricing. The retail stores simply couldn't afford to do that. They couldn't afford to fight Amazon on every single price on stuff that they sell. But for the relatively small percentage of people who would take up a store on a price match offer, they're willing to take that small hit, if it means that those people are more likely to come back and buy more stuff. But also, even delivery is a big thing too. More and more retailers are starting to get into the whole, well, you know, we can deliver it to you approach, or you can order it online, and if a store nearby has it, we'll either put it on hold for you, you can just come in, pick it up and be gone, or you can even stay in your car, and as soon as you show up, we'll bring it out to your car. But also, retail is trying to fight fire with fire in a way, in terms of going online themselves. Walmart a few years ago bought Jet.com to try and bolster its own online operations. Target famously years ago actually used Amazon for its own web store. When you were buying something from Target, it was as if Target was like a third-party reseller on Amazon. And Target realized, yeah, hey, wait a minute, why are we actually like, you know, giving money to our competitor like that? And they famously pulled all their shopping in-house. They completely rebuilt their online store. Maybe I'm more attuned to it simply because I shop at Target more frequently, or because they're also based in Minneapolis where I live. So, you know, I keep up with kind of the hometown business news a little bit more. But when their new website launched, it was really rocky and a lot of people were having problems, but things seem to have really stabilized. And I've even bought stuff online from stores like that, where stores have have a retail presence, but maybe the item I want isn't in store. But if they offer certain incentives like free shipping or percentage off, if you have, you know, like the store credit card or debit card, whatever, where they'll give you an extra, you know, percentage off of the purchase price if you buy it online from them instead of Amazon. I've done that and it makes a lot of sense. So it's kind of that fighting fire with fire type of thing. Lastly, we're also starting to see maybe a little bit of former retail stores that disappeared try to make a comeback online. Circuit City is a great example of this, where Circuit City's kind of changed hands a few times since it disappeared as a brick and mortar kind of retail format. Never really all that successful. Well, its latest incarnation is it's going to be an online only store, but it's going to offer like these like VR kind of features or something. It's very cryptic what they've been talking about in their press releases, and how they're going to offer like personalized video chat kind of tech support type of stuff, or if you need help, they can just show you like through, you know, a video call or whatever. Interestingly enough though, And maybe this is just some kind of curse that Circuit City has. They announced that that website would all be going live in February. Well, it's early March as I'm filming this, and it's still not up. And they're saying, oh, well, we need to spend a little more time trying to bolster the site because, you know, it's going to be so popular and all that. Yeah, I'm not a betting kind of person, but I'd be willing to say it's more likely than not the site will never live to see the light of day, or if it does, maybe 6 months. We're definitely not done in terms of retail stores shrinking or disappearing entirely, but I do hold out some hope for the future where we are going to reach that equilibrium where the daily necessity kind of stuff, or things that you need right now, or the things that just don't work very well online will still be available at retail. It's just everything else, the stuff you don't need so urgently, or the stuff that's highly specialized and just not worth stocking in a store. I think that's the majority of stuff that will stay online from here on out. But anyway, I am of course curious as to your thoughts. How much online shopping do you do comparison to in-store? There are some people that have completely given up shopping in stores and just buy everything online. Are you one of them? How has that worked out for you? I'm curious as to your thoughts on all this, so be sure to leave your comments down below. Also, if you're interested in audio-only versions of these podcasts, I do have them available for Patreon supporters at all contribution levels. So as little as $1 a month gets you access to these as plain MP3 files. They usually go live a few days before they show up on YouTube, and Patreon has support for RSS feeds, which is pretty cool. So just something to think about. Anyway, if you like this one, I would appreciate a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at thisdoesnotcomp. And as always, thanks for watching.